Well, in times right now with the coronavirus, there are a lot of schools who have closed through the end of April or even for the rest of the school year. So it can be difficult for parents to keep their kids learning at home during this crisis. Well, I do have joining me now Lynne Munson, founder and CEO of Great Minds, to discuss how to keep building knowledge in your children during this coronavirus outbreak. Thank you so much for joining me today, Lynne.
Thanks for having me, Makiva.
Now, first, and I can speak to this personally, I have two children at home myself as a result of this coronavirus. And we all know that with the sudden change of day-to-day routine, it can be very difficult to revise that. So tell us, how can parents develop a daily routine schedule for their children during this time?
Boy, it is a new and rather astounding challenge to try to figure out how to help your child complete their school year education. A few things to do, though, to set them up for success in learning at home. One is to dedicate a space that's just for their learning. It doesn't have to be a desk. It could just be a part of the kitchen table, but a space that is set aside exclusively for their learning. Another important thing to do is to set up an educational daily routine, a schedule that has a time and place for each and every subject that they need to study and keep up in. And finally, of course, keep communication open with their teacher to get a sense of their expectations and get access to whatever resources they have to offer.
Great advice there. Now, you talked about setting up a designated space and how important it is in the home for the child to work. Now, tell us some tips on how parents can make that space fun and mentally stimulating, similar to how classrooms are.
It's important for it to be uncluttered. It would be nice if it's a little out of the way, but some kids like to be in the center of activity, and that could work for them too. I'd say it just needs to be used for nothing other than their learning. It needs to be set up in the way that that student feels gives them what they need and the support that they require. It needs to be respected by the other family members as a dedicated space for that extremely important activity.
Absolutely. Now, we know that there can be distractions all day long while at home. Tell us, what can parents do to keep their kids engaged in learning at home and minimize those distractions?
There are a bevy of distractions, right? Including the fact that the internet is now kind of flooded with activities for kids to do. But it's important for parents to realize that kids don't really build knowledge that they're able to retain if it's served up in these kind of fragments of activities. They need to follow an instructional program that starts where their kids' level of knowledge was when they ended, being in school this year, and builds from there consistently and coherently. This is something that we're familiar with at Great Minds because we create instructional materials that are widely used in America's classrooms, particularly in mathematics and in English and in science. So we felt like there was something we could do to help. We have created a series of online daily video lessons. There's 25 posted every day in each of those 3 core subjects that I mentioned across all grade levels, kindergarten through 12th grade. All kids need to do is go to greatminds.org, find their grade, and they're able to put up online lessons taught by real teachers, Great Minds teachers, in these key subjects. We're going to keep posting these 25 a day for as long as we need to. It looks like that's going to be all the way through to the end of the school year.
Perfect. I love that you're doing that to help parents out and help kids out as well. Now, we talked about learning and keeping that communication open with the teachers, but I also love that you're doing this because it helps the parents feel more involved and take on that role of substitute teacher, if you will. Now, we talked about that. Let's talk about physical activity as well. We know that students may be involved in sports, and those have been canceled, or they may have a gym class. What are some ways that parents can ensure that their child is still getting exercise at home, or at least some type of physical activity in addition to learning?
Right. It is so important to take breaks in learning. You know, that's obviously something that they did even in school. And so going out, walking around the neighborhood, perhaps engaging in outdoor sports like tennis, you know, the kind of sports that you can engage in without being in a crowd or in a crowded area. That's the kind of thing that we're doing in our family. We have two kids who are 11 and 13, and of course are itching to be outdoors and not just at home on the computer learning.
Yes, I definitely feel you on that one. I'm going through the same thing. Now, also tell us, what is your expert advice for parents to navigate this time, and how can they best encourage and keep their kids encouraged and motivated during this time?